and welcome to another enlightening episode of Your Right on Trust TV, where we break down the legal issues that matter most to you. I am Hauwa Usman, your host. Today, we are shedding light on a pressing concern for many Nigerians: electricity consumer rights. If you live in Abuja or any state in Nigeria, you probably have questions like, what are my rights as an electricity consumer? Am I obligated to have a meter or pay for estimated billing? Can I challenge unfair billing or disconnection? The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has outlined clear consumer rights. But how many of us know what they are or how to enforce them? To help us navigate this important conversation, we have with us today Barrister Joseph Kolapo Toriola, a legal expert specializing in consumer protection law and regulatory compliance, a seasoned Nigerian lawyer with extensive expertise in litigation, arbitration, and alternative dispute resolution, corporate and commercial law practice, energy and natural resources, taxation, maritime law practice, and debt recovery. But before we proceed to our discussion, let's hear what the residents of the Federal Capital Territory are saying.
If we look at it vividly, they are not really protecting the right of the consumers, because following by the right of the consumers, there are some entitlements that we are entitled to. But if you look at it vividly, we are not enjoying those benefits. Like on a norm, if you must follow that, right of a consumer of a thing, I think we are supposed to have like 24 hours. I think we having a meter for our various house and apartments will be free. I think if you overpay, it's their responsibility to pay you back. But all those things, they are not there. To some extent, before you can even get a meter now, you are paying almost some area you pay 200,000, 150,000, 100,000. Still, you're not even seeing the meter. They are still playing you the game. So to me, we are not really enjoying what we call electricity in Nigeria. So that's why if you look at many Nigeria apartments, they are all on solar. Start cutting from one place to another, you see solar upon solar upon solar, because the NEPA is not reliable, electricity is not reliable in Nigeria. So to me, they are not protecting our rights.
I think the entity is of a selfish interest, because if that's the case, we cannot be operating on two different bands, band A, B, C, and yet people on band B barely see light. You can no longer cook food and put in your refrigerators because of the fear of it getting spoiled. You have less than 10 hours light per day. The low-income earners are the ones suffering for it. You buy 1,000 naira, you get 14 units, and it disappears in the twinkle of an eye. So I don't think they are in the interest of the people. I believe since it has been privatized, their personal interest came into play. When it was still in the government regulatory district, it was a bit fairer. Now that there are a lot of private sectors in it, I think it's going into a very funny state whereby personal interest is of higher play. So I don't think the masses are being carried along at all.
To me, they're not protecting it because sometimes you order for meter and the meter gets late. Sometimes it takes so many months before it gets to you. And again, the way they charge this time around is too much. The charges this time around is too much. Like I knew I did about 2.5 yesterday, and this morning is gone. So it's not like that before. So yeah, batch A. I'm from I'm in band A, so it's too much right now, I swear. So I urge the government to see to it and at least relieve us on some of the bills or some of the stress.
Barrister Joseph, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Hauwa.
Yes, I'd like to begin with the basics. So, what is electricity consumer rights? And under which of the Nigerian laws can we even find these rights?
Okay, thank you very much for this topical issue or question rather. It has been a great concern to citizens in the society, and it's a very good one for us to address this.
Yes.
Consumer protection is more or less like the basis for the rights of consumers.
Yes.
That is how consumers enjoy these goods and services that are given by the electricity sector in the Nigeria electricity supply industry.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So we talk about the laws. There are so many laws guiding them.
Okay.
However, the ground norm of this laws,
this whole rights of the consumer.
This whole rights, rather, we have the legal and the regulatory framework.
Okay.
So if I talk about the legal framework, we start with the Constitution, which is the ground norm that provides for the electricity supply industry. We also have the Electricity Act.
Yes.
Particularly Section 232 that define a consumer as an end user of a distribution licensee product.
Okay.
That is the electricity of a distribution licensee. Then also he derives his basis, that is what is the electricity from other operators, electricity operators or franchise or mini grid operators as well. So this is actually captured in that section. We also have section 119 of the Electricity Act, particularly subsection 1 to 3, provides for the regulations and the procedures to ensure the competitive and market, and also the regulatory framework for these consumers and the distribution companies. We also have some other sections in the Electricity Act, like section 68 too, and so many other sections like that.
That provides for the rights
of the consumer. The next is the FCCPA. That's the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act. It actually establishes the FCCPC, that's the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission.
Okay.
Yes, and it also provides for this for the supply industry as well. There are so many sections encapsulated in the Act that guides goods and services, distribution of goods and services, and also how consumers must be protected in consuming these products.
Okay.
Then we have the Consumer Protection Regulation, precisely, CPR 2023, precisely. That is the Consumer Protection Regulations, particularly Chapter 2. It provides for the connection and disconnection procedures for electricity consumers.
Under the law.
Yes, under that regulation.
Regulation.
Yes, under that regulation. We have so many other ones. We have the metering regulations. That is the MAP. We call it MAP. That's metering asset providers. We have that too. We have connection and disconnection procedures, 2007. There are so many other regulatory framework. However, I want us to note this. The basic regulatory body that regulates the electricity supply industry is NEC, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission.
Okay.
So every other body is under this. That is the generation, the transmission, and the distribution. It's under NEC. So NEC regulates all of this.
I know there is no way you have rights without also having obligations. What are the obligations of an electricity consumer?
Wow, this is an interesting question. If you want to know about the obligations of an electricity consumer, it's really going to expose or enlighten the distribution companies to know their rights. And it's a good one anyway, which we will
because
discuss.
It is important that even as a consumer, you understand
that
what
your
are
rights
your rights
have no limits.
Yes, and then what are the limits of your rights?
So how we start with where they are, with their limits, with the limits of their rights. The first is you must pay your bills. That is, if you are using an estimated bills.
You must pay.
You must pay before you use the electricity. You must pay your bills. The second is you must be nice to the officials whenever they come visiting, either to check your prepaid meter to ensure that it's in compliance with the regulatory agencies and procedures. They will check that too as well. And you also have the obligation to ensure that all the electrical equipments are in conformity with and in line with the with the technical regulatory sector of the Nigeria electricity supply industry. So you have those obligations to do as a consumer. Yes.
So you have the obligation to also be informed of anything that your rights as a consumer.
Yes. You have the obligation to be informed of your rights as the consumer. Yes, it's also an obligation. That is, the distribution company should also inform you. Yes, before they take any action, they should inform you. Those are the rights that we fall under the rights. However, if we are talking about, I'm talking about the limit. However, if we are to go to the rights now, we will talk about the first right of a consumer should be to the right to an electricity
supply.
So far you've met the criteria. You have that right to that electricity, and you've already sent notices to them. You've paid all necessary dues. You've installed the equipment for the installation and programming of all electrical gadgets, and everything is in conformity with the regulatory electricity regulatory body. You are good to go. That is the first right. Second right, you have the right to notices. You have the right to notices. For instance, if they want to come visiting, you have the right to be notified. You have the right to disconnection notice. You have the right to so many. If they want to even put off, for instance, they want to go on a power outage, they have to inform you.
You're supposed to inform the consumer.
Yes, they have to inform you
that the light will go off.
The light will go off.
But in practice,
however,
is that
in practice
obtainable?
it's not like that. It's not obtainable. But we still see that today. In Abuja precisely, I think we are already, I don't have to say it is, they are not really trying. The distribution company is not doing anything at all, because sometimes we see some notices circulating on social media these days.
Okay, so the notice they talk about is not an individual notice.
It's not an individual notice.
So, but where a consumer, where the officials of the electricity distribution company are visiting your house, you're supposed to be informed. You're supposed to receive a prior notice that they will be visiting your house for any reason.
Yes.
So if they just showed up on my gate, how am I supposed to respond to that?
Well, if they show up, ideally, how it ought to be, they ought to notify you before showing up at your gate, definitely. However, Nigerians, we have this practice of doing what we call metering bypass and all of this. So, in order to catch consumers that are that is defaulting consumers, sometimes they just knock at their gate and they try to check. But if the consumer understands his right and says, no, you can't come in for whatever reason, you have to notify me. He's still under his right.
That's also circumventing the law.
He's still under his right. Then they have to inform you. Then they will have a specific time. That is, you will arrange with them within a certain period where they ought to come to check and ensure that everything is in compliance with the
So in other words,
system.
when they send me a notice that they will be visiting, I can also send a reply that I will be available and
exactly. And if you are not available when they visit you, they may still waive that disappointment and reschedule another visit to your premises.
So will I be entitled to another notice of the rescheduled visit?
Ideally, you ought to be entitled to that. But if you disappoint again, you are not going to be entitled to that. Perhaps they just disconnect you. In fact, that is one of the grounds for disconnection.
Okay.
That is, you deliberately did not permit them to check your metering system.
Let's clear up some common misconceptions about electricity rights. But that will be after the break. Welcome back. So talking about some common misconceptions in electricity rights. Is it possible for me to be disconnected for owing 1 month's bill?
Yes, it's possible for you to be disconnected. However, it is still within your rights, because 1 month is just too small. For instance, if they bring your bill to you now and they give some time for you to make payments, ideally 10 days after giving you your bill, and you don't make that money, you didn't pay that bill, then they give you another 2 days, then they disconnect. They are within their rights, so you are no longer within your rights. So in other words, you have 12 days to pay up your electricity bill after it must have been due for payment. So this is it. Estimated billing, you've already exhausted 1 month without paying. You are not paying ahead.
Okay, because it is postpaid.
Yes, it is postpaid. It is only the prepaid meter that is prepaid. So this is postpaid in a way. So you are paying for what you've consumed.
You've already consumed.
You've already consumed. So they bring the bill that this is your bill. Then you move the contract,
what you have already
move forward.
consumed previously.
However, so if you fail to satisfy that the previous bill or the previous electricity units that you've consumed, you know, it tends to you've already pushed away your rights.
If you're not on postpaid, which means that you've already used the electricity.
Okay.
You talked about having a meter if you are on prepaid.
Yes.
So, and I'm asking that, is this meter, for instance, is it meant to be free to the customer?
Yes, it's meant to be free to the customer. Then they run it, you pay back within 36 months. 36 months.
How do you now pay back?
Through your units.
So it's not that you apply for the meter and then you pay for it and you get it?
No, you apply for the meter, they give it to you. I'm just talking about what the law says, ideally. But in practice, you pay for the meter and you get it. And ideally, you ought to, maybe they run there's a way they put it in, but you pay ahead. You pay ahead.
Yes,
now.
Usually that's what happens.
So that is just, and maybe they just run maybe few units in it, and
yes,
that is just it. But ideally, what ought to happen is they give you the prepaid meter free of charge.
If you apply,
then you pay back through whenever you recharge in your prepaid meter through your energy units. You pay gradually. For instance, if you recharge 5 units, you end up paying. They deduct 2 units and you use 3 units.
So but how do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that what you applied for is being spread across the purchase of your credit?
Ideally, most people, they don't even know this.
Yes,
they just assume they don't know this. And this was the practice when this prepaid meter started evolving. But with time, I think the distribution company couldn't afford this prepaid meter anymore. So rather than creating issues as regards this estimated billing, say, okay, please, consumers, can you just buy it one-off? We can no longer afford this prepaid meter, then just purchase.
But that's not
buy
the
it
law.
One-off. Yes, that is not the law, but you know, sometimes you just have to be flexible in practice in order to satisfy both parties. You know, it's a contractual obligations, but I understand from the angle of the distribution company, in order not to bring up about delay in providing meters.
So the customer just pay
because they believe customers, all this arbitrary billing and all of this during this estimated billing is really a great concern for
many
consumers. So in order to just be safe and you don't have issues with the electricity distribution company and their staff, you just go and buy it one-off if you can afford it. However, if you can't afford it, you apply for the prepaid meter and then you wait. But how long will you have to wait for that prepaid meter? That's the question. Because, for instance, you may find a 2-bedroom apartment and they bring an estimated bill of well over 80,000 naira. And you know you are not using air conditions or bigger appliances that can consume up to that electricity. Why don't you just go and buy one-phase prepaid meter with 60,000? Then you know that yes, I can. You are not owing the distribution company, and you can keep your. In fact, you just have the rest of mind. You can keep moving with your electricity.
Buying the credits prepaid.
Exactly, and be buying the credits prepaid.
There is another interesting things that happen in practice. You see situations where a tenant moves out of a house, and then a new tenant is taking over the house, but there are already some unpaid bills.
Okay.
Is the landlord, for instance, meant to pay that unpaid bill, or is it this new tenant now that is meant to pay in order to continue to enjoy electricity?
Okay, generally the contract is between the owner of the premises and the distribution company. That is the landlord and the distribution company. So when the landlord wants to bring in a tenant, he ought to have this agreement with the tenant that this is what we want to and the agreement, electricity payments and bills payments will be encapsulated in that agreement.
In the tenancy
agreement. So the tenant is obligated to pay for whatever he uses. Before the tenant moves out, he ought to pay for it. However, it will be a negligible part on the side of the landlord not to enforce the
or to allow a tenant
to move out without paying. Notwithstanding, on the flip side, any new tenant coming in ought not to pay for the electricity he did not consume. It is arbitrary. It is uncalled for, and it is not supposed to be so. A new tenant ought to come meeting a fresh and a new bill, that he has consumed, electricity bill that he has consumed. So that is how it ought to be. So does that answer your question?
So yes.
Okay.
Yes. So because what I understand now is that if the tenant who moves out did not pay, then the landlord pays for the difference, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes. If he did not pay, the landlord pays for it while the new tenants come in. Then the landlord can go and pursue the tenants that has been unpaid from the former tenant. However, most times we know most tenants, they will not inform you when they move out of the house. Some will even move in the night and midnight, and you just find the doors open, the doors of your house open. Landlords, they face a lot. And we as practitioners, we understand all of this basis.
So, but in that circumstance, can this new tenant apply for the prepaid meter, for instance? Because I believe that will help or curb the issue of leaving an unpaid meter.
Let us assume the premises is running on an estimated bill, and the new tenant should come in and find that is getting arbitrary bills and all of that. He can liaise with the landlord. Mr. A, I want to purchase a prepaid meter for this house. I can no longer afford these arbitrary bills, and The landlord will say, okay, fine. However, that prepaid belongs to the landlord. You know, it will be purchased in the name of the landlord. But the tenant, which ought not to be so, what I'm suggesting ought not to be so, but it's based on an agreement between the tenant, the new tenant, and the landlord. And the landlord can say, okay, fine, subsequent years, please deduct the money you used to purchase that prepaid meter. That is to bring about an amicable and just a calm resolution of these disputes. You know, as dispute practitioners, we just have to be flexible a bit. So we just advise them, just buy this prepaid, prepaid meter, then it keeps running. However, he has to be very careful. There's an issue there. The unpaid estimated bill will be run into that meter. So he can still have a form of agreement with that landlord. That they said we are owing 100,000, for instance. That 100,000 will be run into the prepaid meter as energy units that will be deducted from the new tenant whenever he recharges. For instance, if he recharges 5 units, he deducts 2 units. So at times he might decide to pay it one-off so as to ensure that whatever he uses is or maybe he's starting afresh. So he can do all of this as well. But it has to be based on the agreement he has with the landlord, and it must be in writing, because some landlord can come up and say, I did not tell you to do this.
To do this, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Barrister Joseph, for providing such valuable insights on consumer electricity rights.
It's my pleasure, Hauwa.
Yes.
Yes, it's my pleasure. I'm always available for the organization, and I will really commend this initiative. It's actually a laudable project, and you know, citizens out there and even distribution companies are unaware of this development in the laws and even their rights and obligations. So this avenues like this creates a good platform for educating the citizens and the distribution companies in the Nigeria electricity supply industry. It's a pleasure having me. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Barrister Joseph, for providing such valuable insights on electricity consumer rights. To our viewer, remember, knowledge is power, and understanding your rights as an electricity consumer can protect you from exploitation. If you encounter any challenges, speak up and demand fair treatment. If you have questions or topics you would like us to discuss, reach out to us. We are here to ensure that you know and defend your rights. I am Hauwa Usman, and this is Your Right on Trust TV. Until next time, stay informed and be empowered.